Welcome to the Great Ideas Podcast, where we explore many topics, including leadership, teamwork, relationships, politics, economics, pop culture, health, sports, food, and anything else that's a great idea. I'm your host, Barry Moline. Today, we're talking with Stephanie Perrault, leader of the digital marketing agency Sista. She is a Silicon Valley-based brand strategist, startup mentor, and advisor specializing in market entry and personal branding, particularly for startups. Stephanie is also the author of Brand Boss, which is coming out in early 2025. It's a book designed to help tech leaders harness personal branding to drive influence and business growth. We discuss the critical role of branding for startups, emphasizing the importance of thorough market research, understanding the target audience, and the competitive landscape. Stephanie highlights how investors evaluate startups based on team, execution, and market readiness. She underscores the significance of storytelling in branding and building strong connections to foster trust and legitimacy. The conversation also covers personal branding, community building, and the need for resilience and adaptability in startup leadership. It's a great conversation, and I'm sure you're going to learn a lot about all forms of branding. Let's get into it. Hey, Stephanie, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, and thank you for having me on the Great Idea Podcast. I'm very happy to be here and to share with you.
Awesome. All right. Well, my first question is about you as a Silicon Valley brand strategist. You're a startup mentor. You advise market entry. You advise startups on their personal branding. What is it about startups that they need your help in these areas?
So you're talking about branding or personal branding?
Well, let's talk about branding for the startups themselves.
Yes. So I would say, typically startup founders, they're really good at creating a product, but they don't really understand that before creating a great product, you need to make sure that you have an audience for it, you're solving a real problem, and people are willing to pay for that service or for that product. So there is research to be done before even building your MVP. So it's really important to have a really good foundation where you have done your due diligence and look at what problem you're solving, who is going to buy it, and who is your competition, how are you going to position yourself. And you need to know all that before you buy your product. And what I see too often is they go backward. They build a product because they think they have a great idea. And then they're like, okay, then we're going to go to market. We're going to figure it out. But then it's really hard to go backward because you already went out there with something that was not aligned. So it's a lot harder to correct than if you have a really good start. And also in the eyes of the investor, they look at that. They look at, you have to do your due diligence, and it shows that you're at the right place where, you're a leader, you're the founders or the CEO, and then you know what you're doing essentially.
When somebody's investing in a startup, shouldn't they be looking at the viability of the startup itself, of the product or service at the front end, as opposed to waiting until the back end to figure out if there's a market for that product or service? From the investor's perspective.
Yes. So the investor's perspective, first and foremost, what they're looking for is how much time it's going to get my money and how many eggs. So that's what they're looking at. And then in the recent year, because of AI, because now it's easier to build product and it's faster, then a lot more people can just get into a startup and start building product. So they don't necessarily invest in the idea because at any point of time, there is 20 startups working on the same ideas. And what will make the difference is really the team and the execution. And that is based, most of the time on their experience, their leadership, and how thorough they are and connected. And it's really holistic. It really takes a whole to get that rocket going into the sky. So it's just not one thing, just not one great idea, because everybody has a great idea, but it's another story to put it together, to have a team, to do your research. And it's part of the due diligence when startup pitch and they show their decks. On their deck, there is, what is the problem? What solution am I bringing? And how are we going to monetize? And here is a team, and here is the competition, and this is how we're going to position ourselves. So all of that takes research. It takes quite some time if you want to do a good job. And investors, they're really looking at teams and founders that are able to be very thorough with every step of the experience. And it's not just to have the right diploma and to build a great product because you have a great idea. It's really an alignment with, is the market ready for you? So sometimes it's not. So you have to test the market a little bit. And sometimes it's as simple as just doing a survey and asking people. And this is something that we do constantly in marketing. We keep on listening to the audience, and the audience, you have to listen to it from day one, not just because you think that's going to work, because that's your only point of view. And what does the world think about it?
That's so fascinating, because I love that you use the word holistic. When startups or founders are creating a product or service, it can be very technical, and they're focused on what they're doing and they're experts at what they're doing, but they're not thinking about the broad market or how it's accepted. I heard a quote recently. It's an old quote. It was Henry Ford saying, if I asked the market what they wanted, they would have said they want a faster horse. So he was creating a car and nobody had the concept of the car. So as a startup, he was creating a car, and you have to develop your product in concert with the market and be constantly bouncing off ideas through the development. And that's done only in a way that's sort of back and forth.
He was very visionary, because at the time to even think of that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have those people that have those vision and can change the world. And it's one of the reasons why I love to work with startups so much, because there is so much, especially from the Silicon Valley, so much creation that has been done the last 40 years. So that's pretty amazing. So happy and grateful to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other element of that is sometimes businesses, I worked in the electric utility industry for many years, and electric utilities plan to be around for a long time. They've been around for over 100 years. They plan to be around for another 100 years. And they like to do business with companies that have a presence, that are legitimate, let's say, legitimate. And how do you create legitimacy? Well, if you're just creating a product, still, who knows you? Is that something that you work on, is to create, I want to say an aura around a company, but a story around a company to show that they're serious, they're legit, they're going to be around. This product is something that has some permanence and is going to help you.
Yes, no, so totally. So the messaging of the company and the branding, it's like a human being. We evolve. Like Stephanie, when she was 20 years old, was very different than she is today. And businesses and companies also evolve with the world. So there is shift that needs to be done. And that is done through observation of what's happening. And also, always coming back to the audience, like how do they feel and what do they want more? And, so really like to always refine and never think that we won the game, because things are never won. We're always chasing the game.
So what is the process for working with a company and getting their product and service and telling the story of the company and getting it out there so others see it? What are the kind of things that you do in that process?
So first and foremost, it's really important for me to understand the company and their why. as much as the founders understand it. So then I can be involved and help them to really craft their message and create their brand and what do we want, like who are we, and a company like you have personal branding, but a company is also, as I was mentioning before, it's a living entity. So really defining that, and when you talk to your audience, make sure you talk to your audience in a way that they can understand and it's received.
So do you create a personality of the people that work at the company so that others can say, oh, these are smart people, these are qualified people, they're producing this product or service and I want to work with them? Is that part of the process to build them up?
It's also a feeling, like everybody has to, the energy, it has to flow, and it needs to be like really an understanding. And we need, like, it's so much easier when we work with people that we like and it doesn't feel like working. So like for me, it's important to, and investors are the same. They say we invest in people that we like because we're going to be so close to them for so long. So it's important to have, and founders are the same when they put their team together. Ideally we want everything to work well, to have good communication. So basically I'm part of the team when I work with the startup. I get to know all of them, maybe some more than others. So being likable and the likeliness is really important on every side.
I'm interested in hearing an example of maybe a company or a couple of companies where you tell their story. How do you go about telling the story? How do you go about sharing the personalities and the team and their qualifications so that others can get the indication that they are a legitimate corporation, somebody that they can work with?
So I think it's important today to know that people buy, they want to have an experience, the buyer that we have today. They don't want to be advertised. They want to buy from a company or someone that they know and trust. And so it takes time to build relationship. So it's really a strategy when you look at the branding of the company, or you want to also maybe go with the personal branding of the founders or the CEO. Then first it has to align, but also it's a long term. So you cannot have an employee, like you can, of course, there is the insurance company that has a spokesperson for like 40, 50 years, or Geico, like they have their, but so ideally you want to make sure that the person that's going to be your spokesperson, either founders or CEO, they're here for the long term. So you also have to look at your exit and who is the person, because, most of the time there is more than one founders. So who is the one that is more aligned? And because it's always like that, an idea always come a problem that most of the time a problem that someone went through and they were like, I want to fix that idea. When you hear startup pitching, the one that start with their story, like I remember once I surprised myself. I was listening to pitches and, after a while you kind of, an hour or two, you kind of not that focused anymore. And I was like, at that point, I was not very focused. And this woman, she came and she pitched and she started saying her story. She said, my dad was not feeling well. And so we went to the hospital and he waited there for 6 hours because they kind of forgot about them. And the triage at the emergency was, quite busy. And he had a heart attack. So he didn't pass away, but it had complication because of that. So like for her, she was a developer and she was like, I want to build a product. I want to build something that help, the triage to prioritize and making sure that, no one is going to lose their life or get huge repercussion because of that. And I remember that completely woke me up. So you want people to listen to you and, not putting them to sleep kind of. So you have to really, when you start your pitch, it's like, doing video, on social media. You have like a few seconds to recatch people's attention. Otherwise they're going back to the zone mode where we're just like, we're here, but we're not super present. So that's why it's important to really have a story and how do we get started and why do we do what we do. And I love when it starts with the founders and they're able to articulate their story and be the advocate for what they are doing. So that really changed the ball game. Yes.
That is a great example and a great hook. It's real. And that person is bringing others into their life and talking about a problem and then hopefully talking about a solution. So when you talk about personal branding, is this where, let's say we're branding me. Do I become a thought leader? Am I going out on social media and making posts or blogs or whatever it is where I can get attention to people listening to me in some way, or maybe making videos and talking about big ideas, or maybe I'm talking about my company, but nevertheless, it's me who's out there talking to folks. And that could also mean I'm making presentations at conferences and so on. But is that what you mean by personal branding?
So yes, essentially you want to find where is your community. So if you're a B2B, it's highly likely that it will be on LinkedIn. But maybe B2C, you might be on TikTok, on Instagram. So you have to find where your audience is. And what I usually recommend is just focus on what platform. And once, you get used to it and you're doing pretty good with it, then, maybe you can add a second platform and a third platform. And it's really much about, cause it takes time. So, and founders are super busy. They don't have enough time. They never have enough time. So it's important to also have a good idea of, what it's going to take. And ideally, you want to have help and support because first of all, you have to be consistent. So we recommend at least, if it's LinkedIn, at least 5 days a week, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, every day. And some post more than once a day. So you have to really have a plan and see what is going to take you. Likely you are going to need help because a startup founder has so much more to do. So a lot of people are not very fond of going on camera right away and being vulnerable. So you can start little. You can just start by writing and you can start doing podcasts and then you repurpose your content. You take those 60 great seconds that, I said something very relevant, then maybe we can use it for social media. So I think it's important not to start with trying to do everything, having support, people who are working with us, founders on personal branding. So we have a meeting once a week. We have a whole calendar that is already set up for the next 30 days. So we meet once a week. We show them what's coming for the following week. And so sometimes there is a little bit of tweak, things to change. And we talk about what's coming for the next week. And sometimes there is a trend, sometimes there is news, sometimes there is things happening. So we don't always respect the 30 days calendar. Sometimes we just go, out of it a little bit because there is something important that we want to address, to take an opportunity. And for example, with LinkedIn News, so they have a space where you can see what are they looking for to push you to have more exposure. So sometimes we see in the news that their specific expertise align with, what they're looking for. So for example, in March was Women Month and the month before it was the Black History Month. So they were this was trending and they were looking for people to talk about that. So I always look at it because when I meet with our client that are working on their personal branding, I want to suggest them, hey, I think it's completely in alignment. Like the Super Bowl, for example, we have a client who is in leadership. And so he loves football. So I was like, that's a great opportunity for you to talk about what's happening and the part of the leadership for the coach or whatever happened during the Super Bowl. So this trend, and that helps you, you have to play with the algorithm also because the algorithm is going to choose you. So you have to you have to do the little dance with the algorithm. So it's one of the ways to do it.
So that's fascinating because you're taking somebody who's working in detail in developing their product and service and their startup. And now you're turning them into this public figure, right? I remember when I was promoting my book, I wrote a book on teamwork a few years ago, and I don't know what it was. I was uncomfortable being out in front of a lot of things. And I had a my PR person said to me, stop withholding your ideas. You're hurting the world by not talking about the great things that you're doing. And it sort of woke me up to think, well, I guess if I want people to be better at creating teams, then I've got to get out there and share with them. So I didn't feel confident early on that I was the right person to deliver the message. I'm not sure why. It's just a thing. And I'm wondering, do leaders in startups have a similar issue with this sort of lack of confidence in being the front person for their company?
We all do. We all have a wounded inner child. Like for me, when I have like deep conversation with my founders, I told them that's how I look at it. Like what broke you, it's not just the light. Like, it's easy to say all the quality that we have or how great we are. But people want us as an authentic person, as Stephanie, who failed many times. And so the joy and also, the light and the darkness. And that's what makes me. So what makes me, I wouldn't be here today talking to you if I didn't go through some dark stuff with life. And we all go through life, and it's not easy to be human. And I think the biggest mistake someone that can make who wants to do personal branding is to try to be perfect, to have, all those filters, all those, everything super edited and scripted. So then you become vanilla and you look like everyone and you don't stand out. So what's the point? So really, like, if you want to come out to the world and be at service, you have to do a little bit of introspection and know yourself and who you are and what you're coming from, and know your why, because when things are hard, then that will lift you up. Like, this is why I'm here. And okay, today I don't really want to do that. It's scary, but I'm still going to do it because I have that mission. And you're not just looking at what's happening today in your head. You're looking at the big picture going forward. So yes, so everyone has fears, and, but it's a muscle, it's like learning how to swim. I remember I was super scared when I started. I could not believe I could do it. and I did it. And so it's kind of the same. You just start and you're not going to be great. It's a muscle. It's just going to get better. So trust the process.
You said knowing your why, and I'm wondering if that is a big part of developing confidence, knowing about the reason why your product or service is needed in the world. Is that important?
Yes, it is. Yes, because that's really when things are not doing so well and things are hard. And because 95% of startup fail. So it's one of the things when you start a startup, like the odds of you failing are huge. So the one who are making it, it's because, part of it, they are persistent. And they are persistent, and they're also flexible and coachable. Like for an investor, they'll also look at that. Are you coachable? Are you able to evolve and not getting stuck, where you are with your great idea?
So are there mistakes that leaders make when they're trying to establish this influence and trying to establish their presence?
I would say to try to do too much when you get started. So then, you get overwhelmed, and surround yourself, get help. Like, don't hesitate to get help, because that really makes a difference, especially when you don't know not much about it. So having support can make a huge difference. Otherwise, you start and then 2-3 weeks later, you're like, I have other things to do that are more important.
And is that because, again, these leaders they're focused on their product, their service, they know that, they're less familiar with spreading the message, right?
And it's nice when you do that, because you also, like, having a community, it's not about having millions of followers, because, like, it's important to have a community that is tight. So which means it's not about the numbers, it's about the quality and how much engagement you have. I think it's better to have 10,000 people following you, or even less, but everybody is like engaging and commenting and having an opinion and even talking between themselves, in the chat, and then having millions of followers. And when you post, not much happen. It's like, you have like ghost follower, and it's really also with the quality and not the quantity.
So you're talking about community. right? So is that a part of creating this influence and leadership of a startup?
Yes, because when you have a community, also, so it feels good because, you have, people, you have your support. You can ask questions. You're going to have feedback. So you don't have to go on the street or hire an expensive agency to do survey and ask 1,000 people who don't really want to be bothered. So when you have a community of people that like you can ask questions. You're going to get their feedback. They're going to share about you. And they also may become your first users. So it's very powerful. And it also shows that to the investor that you're leader. You're able to raise community. You have a voice out there. So those qualities are very pleasing to investors.
So that's a great idea to create a community. How do you do that? How do you get people interested in what a startup is doing?
So it depends on the vertical. Some verticals are easier than others. So if you're in impact, so it's usually a problem that a big majority of people, feel, they would like to be helping or contribute. And it's not always having same thing. If you are very in a niche area, sometimes having just 3,000-4,000 followers will help you to get started. So if you're in a B2C and you're selling makeup, so it's a different story. So it really depends which vertical you are. And what I also see now, it's people who are undergrad. They ask me, they say, should I start now? And I'm like, yes, because it's a muscle. Even like in 10 or 20 years, you might do something completely different than what you're doing today. But still, you have your community. And once you have built one, it's easier to build other community. So start in college and start with something that you're passionate about, whether it's sport, art, anything technical, and start talking about it. And so it's not just being on video or on social media, but it's also going to events and being part of conversation on panels and like reaching out to people. So it's not just on the digital. It's also like for me, my business, because I'm a B2B, I would say 80% of my business is coming from either people that I've been working with and that recommend me, or people that I meet at event, because I do a lot of speaking panel event and workshops. So I meet a lot of people in person.
Which is your community. I was fascinated when you said you can go, when you develop a community, you can then go to it, bounce ideas off of, they can become your first customers. I think you're talking about monetizing your service, your product or service, and your first customers is your community. Is that what you can do with a community as you're growing it?
Yes, no, totally. And you also, so the thing about personal branding, I think it's also important to understand that you can also collaborate with people that have a very similar target audience of yours. So when it's time for you to monetize, it's important to do like reach out and collaboration, not just counting on the community, so that you have multiple channels. And the way I look at monetizing, it's kind of like dating. Like if I have a date and I say on the first date, hey, when are we getting married? So people don't want to be sold to. So if you're just showing up and say, hey, I have that great product, or I have this workshop and this program, you're going to be very successful with me. It's not going to work. So it's like what you bring, the value that you're bringing, it's like money in the bank. So the more value you're bringing, the more than you can ask. But it takes a little bit of time and strategy, and it's very subtle. It's not always about talking about the product or what I'm doing. Sometimes it's just, a story about something that I experienced this morning when I was having breakfast. So it's very personal. So it's constant creation. That's why support is important, because just to be alone in our bubble, sometimes we don't see the big pictures. And having a team with us, I think, really makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, the world is changing. We have, in the United States, we have a new president, and things are changing in the way that the government does things. They're changing in the stock market. We don't know where these changes are going. There's lots of talk and threats of tariffs and imposition of tariffs and so on and so forth. So the economy feels like it's up in the air. Actually, what I'm seeing is the economy, it looks like it's moving in a direction toward shrinking a bit, but that's just what I'm seeing. I'm not quite sure where all these changes are going to impact. What are the trends that you're seeing, and how does that impact startups?
So it's a little hard for me to see at this point right now because I left for Africa January 19 and the president came on January 20th. And so I saw everything happening from the outside and I was like, I don't want to focus too much on it because it's kind of like upsets me. And I came back 7 weeks later and so much happened since I left. So I think right now in the industry, I don't really any change. I think it's kind of early, even though things are happening very fast. What I see is there is more people that are laid off coming from that. But I think it's a little bit early. It's like, COVID, when COVID happened, the first months and the second months, we had no idea, like, when is it going to ever end? Or is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? So I think it's kind of the question I'm asking myself right now. Is it going to get better? Is something good going to come out of it? Or is it just going to be like freaking terrible? So I try to focus on the light and think that, there is always a way to get out of whatever mess we are as a community. And what I think it's lovely, the world is reacting also, not just the US. I see the trend on TikTok, there is like, there is some hashtag where you can listen to the conversation that are in Europe that you're not because you have an account in the US. So you don't really see that on your feed. But because I was in Africa, I got some of it. And there were a lot of reach out from people around the world. And so I think it's some way that I'm hopeful because community, they can make a lot of change when people get together.
Yeah.
But they have to get together in a constructive way, not trying to destroy things because they're angry. So this is why we need leadership also in community, because otherwise, we don't want people to go and break cars and do stuff like that. It doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. So when you think about the leaders of startups, and you said there might be an individual, there might be a team of founders, what do you think are some of the skills that they need to be successful?
Like, I think the first and foremost, they have to feel unstoppable. They have to feel that nothing is going to stop them. And the concept and the direction might change because we might not, get it right away. Like for a marketing campaign, it takes 3 months to really have an idea of, how are we doing. So it's kind of the same. It's having faith and being a believer.
Yeah, that is important. I agree with you. You said earlier, knowing your why, having faith, those are really important, and being unstoppable. Yeah, that's really good. So I have a question. The name of your company is Sista, right?
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean? How'd you come up with that name?
So Sista, assistant, an assistant.
Oh, a nova, is that like a star that's forming?
No, so in Latin it means new.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I didn't quite realize that when I found the name. I wanted to a unique name that meant something. And for people who speak English, it's not as obvious, but people, the Latin community, they totally get it. So nova means new, but I think it's also the name of a star or something.
Yeah. Yes. Well, still, Sista Nova. So you're assisting a new venture.
In new ways, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In different ways.
Good.
Yes.
So, I have some questions just about you. Okay. So To relax, what do you do outside of work that just clears your mind? Any hobbies, activities? What do you like to do?
So I love cooking. So I studied Ayurvedic medicine during COVID. So also Ayurvedic,
is that what you said?
Yes, Ayurveda.
Yeah. Is that using the eyes or diagnosing with the eyes? Tell me about that.
So Ayurvedic medicine works with the 5 elements.
Oh, okay.
So fire, water, air, ether, and earth. And everything in the world has the 5 elements. So when you understand them, then you understand people, you understand if a plant is not doing well because through what you see, but also like for humans, it's also like, are we warm? Are we cold? Am I red? Like losing hair. So everything is an element. And, so when we have too much fire, then we need, cold. So earth and air. So there is, because every plants and every medicinal plant, they have also their 5 elements. So that's how you look at, so if you have a headache and I have a headache, we both have like skin disease, for example, the same one, like let's say psoriasis. We may have different treatments, herbal support, or maybe things to do. So it's also meditation, yoga. So yoga is a sister science of Ayurveda. So for me, it's very fascinating because you can use Ayurveda in everything, not just into medicine. But so I was focusing on the mental health psychology, and it's with my marketing because there is so much psychology and also personal branding. So for me, it's really in alignment with what I love to work with. So that's why I like to cook, because I like to cook healthy, and I like to hike. I like to do yoga. I love to travel. So I do travel a lot for business, which is great. I love different culture. I love discovering. I think the world is such a beautiful place. There is so much to see. And, so that's, those things that I like to do out of the work. But because I love what I do, I feel that sometimes I'm tired, and sometimes, I feel like, my energy is kind of low and I need to regroup and to recenter and just to rest. But for most of the time, I'm having fun. I love what I do. So I don't look at the hours too much.
That's great. So, okay, you like cooking. Do you have a particular type of cooking or food that you like to focus on, or a couple different types?
So like I love to do soup.
Uh-huh.
I love soup, especially winter. And then in summer, I love salad. But when I make my salad, I have 20 ingredients. It's a 20 ingredient salad. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking nuts and different type of dressing and honey and mustard and like all kind of veggies cut very, very small, and they all soak together. So I love those type of salad. But of course, I love French food. I love all the, raclette and tartiflette and cassoulet, bourguignon. I love all of those. So
good. All right. So do you have a favorite? You can pick from any one of these. A favorite book or movie, or is there a series that you're streaming now? Anything of interest, that you can recommend to people?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Uh-huh.
And I like Chris Do, The Future. That's the name of his website, Chris Do. I learn a lot from him. Basically, he's in branding and personal branding. He's based in Los Angeles, and he's such an amazing teacher. So if you want to learn about branding and personal branding, he's such a great voice. So yes,
wow. That's all right. That's good. Good advice. I'm going to look that up. All right. Last question. What would you say is your brand? What do you stand for? Is there a word, a phrase, what's your why?
So my why is, I want to be part of the change. I want to be part of making this world a better place, and working with founders. I feel that I'm part of it. I feel like making a difference in my own way. And every one of us, we don't have to be super entrepreneur with millions of billions of dollars companies to make a difference in this world. Each of us in our own way, we can do that. But I think it's really a matter of understanding where you are. It's where you're supposed to be. And me doing what I do today, I feel that's where I am. And that's why I keep doing it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Stephanie. This has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That was lovely.
Thanks to Stephanie Perrault for being our guest today. And thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch, or if you have an interesting topic and you know someone you think would be a great guest on the show, send me an email at barry@barrymoline.com. And please leave a 5-star review, which helps others find their way to the Great Ideas Podcast.